What is the most awkward sexual advance you have experienced? I worked for my local school system for a bit. The staff teachers all went out to happy hour one Friday and invited me. I didn't know teachers love to get ducking wasted. A newly divorced music teacher came up to me and told me how we haven't had an attractive IT guy in so long, and then proceeded to tell me she has only had C-sections and everything is still intact. She was super drunk, but boy was it uncomfortable to just fake laugh and try to slowly move away. A girl walking up to me in a club, taking my glasses off, licking the lenses, and sliding them in my shirt pocket. Edit. I can't believe my most upvoted post is about a socially misguided drunk girl. I'm 17. Working behind the counter of a local pizza sub pasta etc. You get the idea. Place. It's close to closing time, so around 9. Drunk creepy man in his 50s is standing at the counter drinking a beer while I put together his sub and make awkward small talk. He then asks me what time I get done work and if I want to join him for a drink. Bear in mind again, I'm 17. But I also look way younger. Always have. I decline with the excuse that I am not old enough to drink, and he just kinda pauses and says that's not a problem. I have enough beer in my hotel room to get you drunk. I just kinda shook my head no with what I presume to be a deer in headlights look. Hand him his now wrapped sub, and walk out back to wait for him to leave. I called my dad to come walk with me home that night. Didn't have a family car and worked about a 5-minute walk away from home. Edit. Clarification. I had a random older guy walk up to me and strike up a conversation while on a walk in the park. He seemed like a regular guy who felt lonely after moving to a different country. I felt sorry for him, so we talked for a while. Then he tried to convince me to wander off the path to take a picture together. I respectfully declined and kept walking. He then told me about his heart condition. Apparently, he'd have a heart contact if he doesn't get regular hand jobs, and would I be willing to help him out? Nope. The duck out of there and disappeared into the next subway station. Edit. So this is going to be my legacy on Reddit. One of my students waited until everyone left the class, leaned over grabbing my hands, looking into my eyes and said MR. I'm 18 now. Sigh. My description does not adequately sum up the intensity of the encounter. I basically ran away. My now wife and I had been dating about 6 months when we went camping with her family. It's my first family trip with them and I'm on my best behavior. Her older sister was there because she'd gotten into a fight with her fiance and was drinking her problems away that weekend. I point out there happened to be a dance competition at the campground, and being the dumb white kid that I was, make a joke that I could win doing break dancing, which I absolutely cannot do, and her drunk sister proclaims in front of everyone that she could win by giving me a lap dance. I had no idea what to say. My wife lost her it on her sister. Their dad, having a twisted sense of humor, thought it was hilarious. Most awkward camping trip ever. Not sure this counts as a sexual advance, but a guy kept poking my boob with a replica of a sword from Sword Art Online. I now know that the same guy kicked his friends out of his birthday party so he could masturbate in private. I had a deep makeout sess with this guy and he kept smacking my thigh. Not my reachable, but my thigh. I was too confused to even ask why afterwards. Edit. With all of these replies I guess it makes sense because Yach here does have some THICC thighs. We were in a bar when a very awkward, totally drunk guy came to us and just simply told one of the girls that all you need is love. If you want to. That's all he said. Waited for some response from the girl, but when he realized it was cringy as hell, he left. When I was 16, I was at a friend's house drinking alcohol that his mom bought for us. The room was spinning and I was starting to pass out, so I crawled under the kitchen table to sleep. The next thing I know, his mom is under the table with me trying to take my clothes off. I fought her off for 5 minutes and made my way to the bathroom, locked the door and slept in the bathroom. Guy told me he wanted to go on a date. Got dressed up and wore my best jewelry and bag. He actually just wanted a blowjob in his car, wanted to film it, and then got a call from his mom and had to go. I had him drop me off at a theater near my house so my parents wouldn't ask why I was back in less than 5 minutes. Edit. For the record, I didn't do it. I touched him and he came on himself. No, he didn't film it. A girl told me she wanted to use my beard as a loofah to wash her pussy. So like most of these awkward stories, I was at the bar. It was close to last call and I was playing pool. This fairly attractive, I remember it what way anyways, girl came up to me saying she had her eye on me all night. She starts grinding on me and kissing my neck and her hands go up my shirt. It's tacky cause there are people everywhere, but hey, why not? She then lifts my shirt and takes a good bite at my nipple. Of course, I jump back like 5 feet and say holy it, what the hell? And she got embarrassed and ran out the bar. I was a pizza delivery driver for my town's local pizza joint after high school, and I got assigned to deliver an order to a regular customer. The guy was in his 40s and answered the door in a bathrobe. When he handed me the cash for the order, before I could react, he took my hand and kissed it, to which I could only mumble nervously, "Oh, you're sweet." He looks me in the eyes and says, "No, just horny." Suffice it to say, I got out of there fast and only sent male drivers to that address in the future lol. Picked up a guy friend of mine and some of his friends at a bar because they were super drunk. He started talked about how big my boobs were and how he'd like to touch them. I just turned the music up and drove a little faster. Once had a guy hit on me. He did a shot of tequila in a club, shivered, looked me dead in the eyes and said, "Oh, I hate tequila, but I live gingers." Moved to a new town, ate mushrooms in a park and walked around. Got approached by another man, looking for a gay hookup. I watched his face turn several shades of red and purple before putting it together what was going on. Turned him down but he followed me for a while desperately trying to get laid. Got out of there and learned later that not only was there a good fishing on the river there, but it was also a kind of underground gay hookup spot. Awkward as duck. In college I met this guy and we decided to hang out. He picked me up from my dorm and we were supposed to go back to his apartment to watch movies. During the ride there he was pretty much quiet the whole time and staring straight ahead as if he was trying not to look at me. We arrived at the parking lot to his apartments. He parked and continued staring straight ahead like a crazy person. Then he suddenly put his hand on my upper thigh. I immediately moved his hand away and asked him what the duck he was doing. He didn't answer. He just started the car and silently drove me back to my dorm. I swear it felt like a scene from Halloween. Some guy came up to me while I was walking to a class on the college campus. He said nice day, huh? And I agreed. It was in fact a nice day. Good weather for a blowjob, huh? And I was sort of startled but I conceded the point that I suppose it was good weather. Rookie mistake. He asked if I wanted one. I informed him I was heading to my anthro-bio lecture and walked off. I wonder how many times that line has worked for him because 2 semesters later on the same campus he used it again on me. I assume he didn't recognize me. A night at my sports club for someone's member of the ladies section 40th birthday. Just a couple of blokes there and a lot of tipsy ladies of a certain age. One of the ladies decides to try her luck with all the men there, including myself. 3 out of the 4 of us back away from her, us being happily coupled, her being very married. She's getting very handsy and dancing against us, and none of us want anything to do with her. Not unattractive, but no, thank you. My girlfriend is right there. The 4th guy. Well, what happens in the dark behind a shed is none of our business. Do you want to come in and listen to some Tom Jones records? Circa 1997-8. I was watching a football game in a bar with a bunch of people from my hometown that I didn't know that well. Some kid a few years older than me kept saying random it to me and I was trying to politely ignore him. As I was watching one of the TVs I yawned and he immediately stuck his finger all the way into my mouth. And then after realizing how ducking weird he had just been went, I didn't know you well enough to do that. I've got 2 from 2 different times at the same bar. First one was the first time I'd been out drinking at a bar with my brother since he just turned 21 a couple weeks before. Turns out he is a lot of fun while drinking, so him and I are going drink for drink as fast as we can. After a round I said let's go get another and we start walking to the bar. I feel a hand grab my ass hard as hell while walking past the dance floor. Thinking it was my brother screwing around. It was a hard grip, like hard enough to almost hurt. I turned and yelled, "What are you doing?" He knew I was messing around with my aggressive half yell, but the big girl with the bachelorette party sash who actually grabbed my ass looked terrified. I tried to tell her I thought it was my brother messing with me, but she must not have heard over the band and disappeared. My brother and my friends had a good laugh at that one. The next was close to closing time where they started bringing the lights up. I went to take a leak before my buddy and I called an Uber. I come out of the bathroom and walk over to him. He started talking with a bachelorette party while I was in the bathroom. I walk over and we all start talking when the bride-to-be looked at me, took M's shirt and aggressively pulled it open to look at my tattoo. She then rubbed it and touched it, saw the one on my ribs and started caressing that one too. The rib one goes from just under my armpits to the lower part of my hips, so I was loving it. But then she stopped, said she was getting married like I was the one flirting with her, and they disappeared. My sister's boyfriend tried to kiss me, but I turned my head and he got the side of my lips. He asked if I was uncomfortable and I said yes, and then he went to sleep. At least he listened, but it was still screwed up. I used to live in the downtown area of a small city, and my apartment was conveniently a block away from a pizza place, so I could get late night food without driving anywhere. One night I was walking to the pizza place and a homeless lady very loudly and repeatedly offered to give me a blowjob if I would let her use my phone. I politely declined the offer and fled. I did get the pizza, but I brought it home via a different route. Very hot patient, occupation stripper, hitting on the right out of school 22-year-old X-ray tech at 1 AM. Very unnerving indeed for me. Insisted several times on showing me her injured sternum by not keeping her gown on. Losing my virginity. I think the chick wanted to lose her virginity, so she just told me, if you wanna duck, get a condom. In those exact words. And yes, I got the one confirm I had in my bedroom. Terrible 6. I came before I even got hard. Dated for like 2 years after though and got decent at it. Going back a few years when I was a lot younger, some random drunk woman who was a good 20 years older than me propositioned me by asking if she could duck me with a strap-on dildo. Pointed at a friend of mine and said he will. Got me out of there and him giving me some grief after for that. Edit. A word. PS, he never exacted true revenge on me. Either he's forgotten about it, or he's building up to something epic. Wasn't even sexual, but in middle school this girl I knew had a huge crush on me, but I had zero interest romantically. Well, for like my birthday or something she asked me to meet her at her locker because she had a present for me. I went with my best friend, and when I got there she told me to close my eyes. So I do and put out my hand, and she kissed me like near my mouth but mostly on my cheek, and out of surprise I said ow. Then we all kind of silently went down the hall and went different ways out of the school. To this day I still die inside when I think about it. Alexia, if you read this, I'm sorry I made it even more awkward. Parents' Christmas house party. I'm 16. Everything is pretty chill. I'm relaxing in the kitchen talking to parents and a few of their friends. Mum's friend is super drunk and makes a slurred comment and grabs my D. Through pants of course, and everybody just kinda stops talking and I laugh nervously and just grab my drink and leave the kitchen. She didn't come around after that. The whole date was a, now, comedic disaster which I'm saving for some future worst date thread. Like I really don't think anyone could top it. But the date ended with me trying to kick him out of my car as he explained that normally he would have a 1-year requirement on the relationship before having sex, but he might drop it down to 6 months for me, followed by an explanation of how he wouldn't take his GMAS picture off his dresser, but he would turn it around like he does when he masturbates. My ex-boyfriend's brother got my phone number and texted me after me and the ex broke up and said, "Hey, I miss hearing you and have sex. Also 60 and you sound so 60 and I can't hide my fantasy anymore." Not only was he an ex's sibling, which is obviously a no-go, but he was also only 16. I was 20 at the time. I texted back to be nice and said, "Thanks for the compliment, hun. But this is obviously wrong and you're too young for me. Find a girl your age that you like." He randomly hit me up again 2 years later, excited to tell me it was his 18th birthday. Mayo, I never replied. Dude jumped out of an underpass with a knife and threatened my friend and I in 4th or 5th grade. He told us we were going to perform some 6 acts on him or we were going to get stabbed. We laughed and rode down the steep side of the flood control and left him behind. I never really thought about it for many Many years. My buddy still owns a car dealership in Long Beach, CA, and I always imagine I would find him and ask if he remembers that. Oh wait, no. I made an earlier comment. I was at a fancy restaurant with my 2 siblings, their mother and her boyfriend, for my brother's birthday. After dinner the waitress asked if we want coffee or dessert. I normally only drink black coffee, but they didn't have that on the menu, so I just order a cortado. Now up until this point she has been somewhat flirtatious with me, in front of my family mind you, but I'm a male so I obviously had not caught on. Anyway, then jokingly, but looking me dead in the eyes, ask if the cortado should be single like her, or double like her bed. Black. I just want black coffee. In 8th grade this chick just straight up told me she wanted to duck. I was down, but was a virgin. Talking to her on the phone she tells me how she likes to record it and has made videos and sold them to pawn shops. We were in 8th grade. That made me immediately uninterested. I was at a club having fun, and while I was kissing a random guy I felt an extra tongue all of a sudden. Then I stopped and looked at this girl as she proceeded to say hi. My name is. Nice to meet you. Then she left. My now girlfriend grabbed my hand that I had just sliced open, put my bleeding thumb in her mouth, and sucked the blood off to let me know she liked me. I work in a hospital. Healthcare workers get hit on all the time, but it's usually by drunks or people who are just over the top flirtatious. A particularly awkward one for me, though, was a very overweight girl in her 20s. She was there for anxiety and had a fast heart rate, which is normal for anxiety attacks, but we get EKGs on any abnormal cardiac vitals just to be on the safe side. So I'm getting all the leads on her for an EKG, doing my polite, professional explanation of how it all works, and she just interrupts me with this kind of stilted it's not every day I get a cute guy looking down my shirt as I stick V1 and V2 on. I just kind of clear my throat and ignore it. And there's this long pause where I figure she got the hint. Then as I ask her to lie nice and still and relax to make sure the reading is clean, she interrupts me again to say "Juist saying." I've had folks flirt with me much more aggressively than that, but that one was definitely the most awkward. It was half sad, half off-putting, no confidence in the execution. She kept interrupting me to flirt inappropriately, and I was busy as duck and had a lot of other work to do, so I didn't want to sit there and listen to that. It was a small party at my apartment. My roommate had people over and they were getting hammered. IGF. Now my wife and I went to bed, shutting my bedroom door. Some girl kept on knocking, wanting me to come out. I have no idea who she was. GF kept yelling at her through the closed door to duck off, which she finally did. She left a note for me. GF read it and threw it away. She told me about it, and I got it out of the trash to read. It was all about if I thought sex with my GF was good I needed to give her a shot so she could show me how much better she was at ducking. It was flattering, but weird and creepy. I assumed she was just wasted and to take her up on it would have been taking advantage of a ducked up person. I never found out exactly who she was or saw her again. It wasn't long after that I moved out of that app and into one with my GF. Not enough people are saying whether or not these experiences worked. I wanna know if the girl that ate 12 raw eggs got some or not. Come on people. Asking me to code her website. Backstory. Shortly after I got married, the place I worked hired a new AP clerk. AP was right next door to IT, and so I dealt with this woman a lot. After about 6 months she asked me to help code her website. She wanted to sell stuff online. I didn't know about how to code a website, and told her so. She left the company about 6 months later. About 2 weeks after that, I was talking to the CFO, and this girl came up in conversation. "Oh, man, you dodged a bullet." The female CFO told me. She had the biggest crush on you. She devised this idea to have you code her sex toys website as a way to get your attention. She figured that you'd think any girl that was into selling sex toys. So, being asked to code a website is the most awkward sexual advance I've experienced. If only because I only learned about it in retrospect. While at the beach one summer, my 13-year nephew walked up to me. I was wearing a bathing suit at the time. Having just come out of the water, grabbed my genitals and said, "Nice." I told his mother, my sister, about it. And she said, oh, Jarrett has trouble with boundaries sometimes. Like it was no big deal. Now I avoid him at all costs. I'm a bouncer in a popular bar in my area. Scanning IDs at the door one night when the dreaded bachelorette party strolls in. First couple girls in the group go normally. Then comes the bride-to-be. She grabs me by the D and balls hard. To the point I almost hit her and drunkenly slurs something along the lines of I want you to rearrange my organs. I promptly removed her hand from my genitals and refused to let them in. I don't know why one would think it's a good idea to aggressively squeeze a bouncer's balls. But I see plenty of crazy it on a daily basis, so it didn't really surprise me. 15 years old. Boy. Never been kissed. Went on a week-long cruise with my parents. If you haven't been on a cruise, they have special hangouts for teens with virgin cocktails and dancing and all that. So I'd spent most of day 2 hanging out with a handful of other kids, getting to know everyone, making friends, etc. I loved trips like this because at school I was horribly bullied anything, so they were an opportunity to just let fly and make friends with people my own age. Anyway, round about 9 PM after a day of hanging out, the group had dwindled down to me, another guy, and 2 girls. We decided to hit the hot tub but had to change. And turns out my room was on the same deck as one of the girls. We head to my room and my brother's there. So I just change in the bathroom real quick and we head to hers. It's empty. She grabs her stuff and goes into the bathroom to change. And then comes out a few minutes later completely naked and starts coming towards me. She's beautiful. She's naked. I am not prepared to deal with this. My brain enters fight or flight mode. Flight wins. But she's blocking the door. She's coming to put her arms around me. She's naked. The panic intensifies. I duck under her arm and 360 out the door. I think I said sorry, but I can't be sure. The hallway is a blur. She was naked. Dude. My heart is pounding. I spend the rest of the trip avoiding her and the rest of my life kicking myself for not keeping my cool. Okay. To start this off, I was 40, at a conference out of town. Hotel bar. Pretty quiet. I was having a drink and in walks a local. Everyone calling him by his name. He takes a seat at the bar. I am minding my own business, but I am friendly. Shortly, he strikes up a conversation. He is 72, divorced, living in a motel nearby and so lonely. Would I please sleep with him? I told him I was married. He didn't care. This guy was pushing 300 pounds and begged and pleaded. Had to make a quick getaway from that one. Yikes. Got drunk with a supervisor from work. Got chucked out of the pub. His way home was past my house. He asked if he could use my loo. Stood outside smoking, waiting for him to come out. He didn't. Went up to the toilet. Piss all over bathroom. He's in my landlord's room. Spread-eagled on the bed. Asked him to put his clothes on and come downstairs. He comes downstairs and asks if I want to have sex. Say no thank you. We then had to work together the next morning, extremely hungover and awkwardly. In a bar around Halloween when a girl grabs my arm and proceeds to ask me, what am I dressed as? She has a blue hooded sweatshirt with white trim, short blue skirt and knee-high white boots. I tell her I have no idea. On cue, she and her friend exclaim "Escaho." I immediately tell her she needs to repeat it for my girlfriend. They were not amused and left immediately. This fat chick came up to me at a bar and proceeds to talk to me. Not 3 minutes into the encounter, she grabs my junk. Long story short, I smashed. Worked in a restaurant. Old lady customer regular snuck into the back prep room where I was working and said, when there's snow on the mountain top, there's fire down below. Started looking for a new job that day. High school yearbook signing time before summer break. Mostly we just handed them out to anyone who wanted to sign them. One of the girls in my class signed "I hope we run into each other's arms this summer." Not a big deal till I looked at the name and she replaced her last name with mine as if we were married. I was working with this lady on a project. She's actually who got me into Reddit. She worked at a different location than me, but she was my business user responsible for testing my app, so we spent a lot of time on the phone, sometimes after hours. She said one evening, "A lot of people don't know I'm married. Me and my husband kind of do our own thing. He travels a lot. I am familiar with open marriages and know that code. I don't get involved with co-workers as a rule, let alone married ones. and I was recently out of a bad breakup. Plus I had no idea what she looked like. I let it pass without comment. I finally met her in person a couple of years later. One of the most beautiful women I have ever seen. Alison Brie is the closest celebrity comparison. I know I made the right call, but damn it all the same. I was in the club dancing with my girlfriend when a very drunk woman walked up and grabbed my crotch and tried to lick my girlfriend's face. She was super aggressive, so when she grabbed me it was basically like a punch to the nuts, and her lick was more of a mouthful of saliva. Oh, this happened to me literally last week. On my way out of a bathroom stall, fat dude gives me a thumbs up. I nod and try to walk past him. He brings me in for a big hug. Awesome. He lets go and I'm washing my hands when he comes back up to me making all sorts of weird sexual gestures, curves with hands, fist near mouth type stuff. I shake my head and say no, not me, and he starts flipping me off and backed into the stall I walked out of. Public libraries. Am I right? My boss telling me he can't even look at my arms because, well, you know, I guess my arms are super sexy. Then at another point asked if I wanted a leg massage. Also mentioned if my husband and I ever split we could run away together. I used to call him dirtbag to his face. I don't work there anymore. 35-year-old woman. I'm going to get you in bed and duck your brains out. 35-year-old me. Oh, no, you're not. Had a friend who got drunk and reached into my pants trying to beat it. While my girlfriend was right there watching. I don't know if this counts, but when I was a teenager my family and I were at a restaurant somewhere in Canada before a hockey game. A random older guy somehow strikes up a conversation with us, probably because we were wearing the opposing team jersey. He asked us where we were from and I said Michigan. He put out his hand and grabbed my arm to make me use my finger to show me where in Michigan on his hand. It felt very off. Somehow my parents failed to notice it. It could have been an overly friendly old man or a pedophile. I have no idea. The development of really tasty condom lubricants. I know their progress, but licking the lube off is just the best, and then they're useless for sex. My straight roommate and I got drunk. He said, "I'm so mad that you've never come on to me." I said, "Why the hell would I? You're straight." This sounds like the beginning of bad gay porn, but I was seriously not into him. That was my way of saying you are not the least bit attractive. A few weeks later he also fell asleep on the couch with his D hanging out. If he had been one of the myriad of hot straight dudes in my life I would have been all about it. It's always the wrong ones. Damn it. I work for a basketball team as a support staff member. I am essentially a filmmaker. Obviously I'm not a coach, but I report directly to the head coach, so I have a lot of freedom and influence on campus. Woman who is a season ticket holder finds out and starts flirting, but it is super awkward because I'm working. We ended up going on a date. Things went well. I'm marrying her this spring. Oh man. One time I went to a roller rink with some co-workers. As we were about finished we're sitting, taking off our skates. This girl is looking at me like she thought I was familiar. Didn't think of it and went back to talking to my people. Literally 5 seconds later she's crawling up to me like a freaking cat stalking her prey. She then gestures her dilated pupils to behind me and not saying a word. I say hi. She says hi. Continues to gesture her eyes. To remind you, this is all happening in front of my co-workers, my supervisor, and my boss. She then goes on about how I'm cute and says we could go somewhere more private. Then she, comes really close like she's trying to kiss me. At this point I figured she had to be on drugs or something. It was the weirdest human interaction ever. I ask her awkwardly to give me some space and she just sort of smiles and crawls back to where she was without batting an eye. My boss said it was one of the funniest things he's ever seen. TL. Dr. Roller Rink Girl on drugs finds me as a suitable mate and proceeds to advance